Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you are joining us for the informational session for the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains Summer 2026 Pre-College Program. My name is Laurel Zaima-Sheehy, and I am the Assistant Director of K-12 and Continuing Education at the Columbia Climate School. And I'm also one of the instructors and experts in the program. If you are interested in hearing a little bit more about my background and what I teach in the program, you can find more information from the past recorded info sessions. I think that session was done in November. So we host these information sessions on the third Thursday of every month from November through March from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. So you have found your way to the right place if you are interested in our pre-college program this summer. Each one of these sessions, we spotlight different aspects of the program featured by one of our 7 Columbia Climate School experts who teach on the program. So the expert is going to introduce a topic from one of their lessons, which offers a little preview of what students might expect this summer. And we also feature a program alum, which is going to offer an opportunity to hear firsthand about some of the experiences that they had on the program, learn about the Climate Action Project, which is the final deliverable of the program, and hear about where they have taken the program long after their work in climate, long after the program is over. So I want to briefly introduce our speakers here today to allow them to share a little bit more about themselves, their work, and their climate story, or what inspired them to pursue climate solutions. So I want to start with Anna Panjwani, who is a summer 2024 alumna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Panjwani. I am a junior right now, but I was a rising sophomore when I joined the program. I'm from the Washington, D.C. metro area. And regarding my climate journey, I've always grown up around nature. So whether it was hiking or going to the beach, nature has really been the marker of some of my best memories and all of my most meaningful relationships, whether it would be with my family or my friends. And after taking my first environmental studies class in 7th grade and realizing that the state our planet's in, I was absolutely terrified, but I was also very, very determined and very, very hopeful. And my next goal was to learn as much as I could and to just start doing something and helping this planet and this beautiful world that we live in that I cared about so much. And the Green Mountains program was the perfect opportunity for that.
Thank you so much, Anna. And don't worry, Anna's coming back later to share more about her experiences as well as her climate action project. So Anna will be joining us later in the program. On the Columbia side, we have Sandra Goldmark, who wears many hats at the Columbia Climate School. Sandra is an Associate Dean of Engagement and Impact, a professor of professional practice at the Climate School, and the author of Fixation, How to Have Stuff Without Breaking the Planet. Sandra, hi, welcome. Do you want to share a little bit more about how you entered into climate and sustainability work?
Hi, yeah, sorry to be joining late.
No
Uh,
problem.
sure, just really quickly, you want to hear as I heard Laurel say, just as I was joining, I'm a professor of practice here in the climate school, and my focus is circular economy, and climate and sustainable design. And that's how I got involved in this work, is through working as a theatrical set designer. From there, getting involved in sustainability, circularity, and climate. And I'm very happy to be coming back to the climate school in the Green Mountains.
Thanks, Sandra. And Sandra will also be popping back in later in the program to give you a little preview of the circularity lessons that she teaches in the Green Mountains program. Great. Also from Columbia, we are joined by Emma Kizavat, who is a graduate student in the Climate and Society program, as well as a graduate student program assistant for K-12 initiatives at the Columbia Climate School.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here today. As Laurel mentioned, I'm supporting the K-12 and Continuing Ed department at the Columbia Climate School and focusing specifically on the Green Mountains program. I'm also a graduate student in the Climate and Society program, and I'm interested in the intersection of climate, education, and sustainable food systems, and have a background in outdoor education. So really excited to be supporting this program. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Emma. And We also are joined by Sylvie Littledale from Putney Student Travel, who is the director of the Green Mountains program on the Putney side.
Hi, Laurel. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. As Laurel mentioned, I work for Putney Student Travel, which you'll hear a little bit more about later on. At Putney, we design experiential education programs for high school and middle school students. I specifically work on mostly high school programs in Peru, China, and this program in Vermont. I am also on the hiring team at Putney, so I get to work with all of the incredible leaders who join our students and who might join you in the field this summer. So that's a really wonderful part of my job. I'm also a native Vermonter, and so this program is really close to my heart and its connection to climate work. I've grown up on a farm, riding horses, being outside, and enjoying the natural resources that we have available here in Vermont. I continued that forward in my hobbies as a chicken and beekeeper here, and I'm really excited to offer this space to students in the summer to dive deeper into climate solutions really in a connected way with our natural resources. So I'm really excited about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Sylvie. So for our agenda today, we are going to start by giving a brief introduction to the organizations behind this effort, so the Columbia Climate School, as well as Putney Student Travel. We're going to then dive into an overview of the Columbia Climate School and the Green Mountains program. We'll talk about key program themes, teaching approaches, and an overview of some of the lessons that you would experience as a student on the program. We'll give you a glimpse of a day in the life of a student, sharing highlights of the student experience. And we're going to conclude by sharing about program eligibility, the application process, and next steps that you can take. We will also make sure that we have plenty of time for questions at the end, but if any questions pop into your head, feel free to use the Q&A to populate those questions, and we'll be ready to answer them. And at the end, we'll also have the ability for you to join us live to ask questions to any of the experts, to Anna, to any of us as administrators as well. So, starting with an introduction to the Columbia Climate School, Columbia University is the 5th oldest institution in the United States and the oldest in the state of New York. And the newest school, Columbia University, and the first school of its kind in the United States is the Columbia Climate School. Announced in 2020, the Columbia Climate School is dedicated to advancing interdisciplinary climate research and education with a strong focus on outreach, impact, and partnerships to meet the growing need for solutions to the climate crisis. And the key word there is interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinarity is at the heart of everything that we do at the Climate School. We know that climate change is this really complex problem that impacts every part of our life, every part of our society, every sector, from food and water systems to infrastructure, economies, policy, law, technology, the arts, and more. It really cannot be solved by focusing on one discipline alone. It requires creative solutions and problem solving to work collaboratively across disciplines to really address some of these challenges that we're seeing. So that's why interdisciplinarity is so important for us. We bring it into the curriculum of the program. You can also see it across the experts in the program. All of our experts have different backgrounds, and they also work across disciplines, across sectors in their day-to-day at the Climate School. And you can also see this in our student body. And what I mean by that is all of the students in our program, they're coming in with different interests, passions, and how they have a vision of how they want to bring climate solutions into that passion. So some students might be really interested in the visual arts, while others are interested in climate modeling, while others are interested in policy. And we encourage you to bring all of these interests into the program. We don't want or expect all of our students to become climate scientists. While that is important, we also need solutions across all of these sectors. And so that's our goal for the program, is to help you find a climate solution that fits the skills and passions that you want to bring into the world. We also have an extremely diverse student body, with about 20% of our student body being international and many students coming from across the United States. It creates a learning environment where students get to learn from each other as much as they're learning from the professors that teach on the program. And through our partnership with Putney Student Travel, we're able to offer this program, which really focuses on hands-on, immersive learning, where students feel empowered to bring climate solutions back to their own communities. So I'm now going to pass it over to Sylvie to do a little background, give a little background on Putney Student Travel.
Thanks, Laurel. So Putney Student Travel is the collaborating organization with the Columbia Climate School to put this program into practice to make it happen, more of the logistical back end of all of this. So at Putney Student Travel, we run educational travel programs for middle and high school students all over the world. We were founded back in 1951, and since then, we've been creating opportunities for students to learn, grow, collaborate, and embrace the unfamiliar, always with safety at the center in a global context. This is our 75th summer as a family-run organization. It's now in its third generation of leadership. Putney Student Travel was founded in 1951 by George and Kitty Shumlin, pictured here. They were two teachers who, in a post-war world marked by growing division, they believed in the power of bringing young people together to address that global growing division. And so the first Putney program was bringing U.S. high school students to Europe by steamship with the goal to build understanding through real face-to-face connection across country boundaries. That mission, helping students step out of their comfort zone and find common ground across lines of difference, that's what still guides us today, and it feels more important than ever right now. We believe summer is an ideal time for meaningful education, and our programs encourage students to deeply connect with the world through immersion and experiential learning. We offer both small group travel programs, so around 16 students and 2 leaders, as well as larger campus-based programs like this one across 6 different continents. Our team works out of a restored cow barn in Putney, Vermont. It's where I am right now. We're a group of about 25 colleagues and program directors, including former Peace Corps volunteers, former teachers, anthropologists, many other disciplines, each bringing expertise, lived experience, and many language skills to each of the programs that we create. When families call us, they connect directly with the program director who curates the trip that they're interested in, and that person is staying in close touch with local partners on the ground every day. We're also on call during the summer 24/7, so we're supporting our leaders and students wherever they are in the world at all times. We are so thrilled to collaborate with the Columbia Climate School. We share a lot of goals here, and so we're really excited to support the young, passionate voices that we need right now and to spark meaningful dialogue and action around solutions to the climate crisis. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Sylvie. Yes, we're so excited that we're able to offer this program in partnership with Putney Student Travel. This is our 6th summer of offering the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains. This is a campus-based program, and it's hosted at Vermont State University's picturesque 168-acre campus right in Castleton, Vermont. So the students of the Green Mountains program, they're going to be joined by a cohort of solution-oriented, like-minded students from across the world that are really ready to take action against climate change. We have a foundation of STEM in our program, but our pre-college program is really intended to show how climate science and earth processes and sustainability can be integrated into any career path, as I mentioned before. So you're going to walk away with knowledge and skills and tools to identify your own climate pathway, so then you can make meaningful contributions to your own community. The dates for this summer are July 5th through July 17th, 2026. So it's a 13-day, 12-night program. The fee is $7,290, which is an all-inclusive fee that covers your accommodation at Vermont State University's campus, all of your meals, program activities, the field excursions, weekend trips, as well as the transportation during the program. And this is a pre-college program designed for students grades 9th through 12th, and we also consider motivated rising 9th grade students as well. And we are going to invite Anna back up into the program. So Anna is an alumna from the 2024 summer. And I'm just so thrilled that you're back to share a little bit more about your experience and where you have really taken your work that you started in the Green Mountains program and grown it throughout the past year and a half. But I first just wanted to talk about the experience through your eyes. So I was curious, how did you first learn about the Green Mountains program, and what about this program in particular really drew you in?
Yeah, so I actually heard about this program through one of these very info sessions. And for everyone listening, this program was one of the most enriching experiences I've had thus far. Even just like looking at the photos, there's such a vast amount of things we do. We do lab work. We listen to seminars by some of the most experienced experts in this field. We also have campfires. We go on excursions. And what drew me into this program was so before the program, I cared about the environment quite a bit, but climate change was like almost like like this giant undefeatable overlooming monster that I really wanted to fight, but it felt impossible. And I know a lot of people my age agree with that sentiment because I knew at the time I knew that greenhouse gases were the primary cause, but I also knew that entire industries in the country ran on those greenhouse gases. I knew that eating meat was very harmful, and I knew a little bit about fast fashion also being very harmful, but at the time I didn't know actually that much about the individual aspects and the science behind it and the solutions behind it. So it felt like every option to be more sustainable was to just stop doing everything and like stop buying clothes, go fully vegetarian, and things that I wasn't necessarily able to do. So it felt like I was almost like a fish in this fish tank and I had no place to settle. But after the program, and joining the program, it and hearing from all these different mentors like Dr. Josh DeVincenzo or Professor Sandra Goldmark or Mr. Martin Diet Brock or Laurel as well, who were so integrated in the actual field and they had so much knowledge about the different sectors and the different interdisciplinary ways that you could actually solve the problem. This like monster almost turned into this like ocean of opportunities where there were so many different paths you could take to create solutions that applied specifically to your interests.
I love that analogy that you use because I think that's exactly right, and that's our goal is knowing that every single person can and should has an obligation to take action against climate change. And what that looks like in your life can be different based on your interests, your geographic region, what resources you have accessible to you. And it can be overwhelming when you think about it at this like macro scale. But the point of the program, and I hope that this is something that you found as well, Anna, is for us to help you narrow that down. So then you can feel like you have a very tangible goal leaving that you can continue working on long after the program is over.
Absolutely. And like once you realize there's this whole ocean of opportunities to create a positive impact, you most definitely like find a place to settle. And even to give some examples, if you're a student who's really interested in science, we did hands-on labs with Laurel where we got to actually go. Vermont is like a beautiful, beautiful area, and they have the campus is surrounded by nature. So we got to go into streams and run labs on the water quality. We got to look at tree trunks. If you're really interested in law, we had seminars where we learned about international investment law and how that affects energy usage, even how something as like what worldwide as that can just affect you as a person. And if you're interested in business or fashion or entrepreneurship, we learned about the circular economy, which is this whole sector of economics that has the potential to change the way every business is run and change the world. If you're into humanities, we learned about climate communication and how to bring this issue to people who don't believe in it, which is a problem that is very relevant, especially in this field. And if you're interested in politics, we got to meet and listen to the former governor of Vermont. I know last year they also got to visit the state department and see where actual like legislative action is taken for finance and STEM. We got to meet climate venture capitalists. So there really is something for everyone, and there's so many different opportunities. So it's just incredible. And what you also learned that I think was so inspiring is that it's not just you isolated anymore or scared anymore, because there's this whole worldwide community working together to push change. So it's like this formula where you take what you're interested in and want to pursue, and then you apply that to sustainability and take what you learn to be the tools. And this program is what teaches you that formula. So if you want to start creating change now, this is the program for you.
Oh, thanks, Anna. I think hearing from you, your testament, it means so much. Was there a particular activity, lesson, or even just like memory of the program that was your favorite?
Oh, there are so many. I think one of my favorite memories was when um, that's such a good question. There's a couple. The first one is definitely the excursions we did. So we got to visit different parts of Vermont and we got to see, like go to different businesses, and we got to go to like the energy department and basically see how they had completely changed cities to be run primarily by renewable energy, like when we went to Burlington. Another one was where during Professor Sandra Goldmark's lesson, where we took different products and then we researched and found out how we could make those products circular. So like every single day products that are actually cause a lot of plastic waste, like pens, we basically created a whole pitch on how to make those recyclable and renewable. So that was also really I think I definitely learned a lot from that too.
That's great. And I was looking at your pictures. I just wanted to highlight one core
Yeah.
memory for me from 2024. This picture right here of you having a jam session with Dr. Josh DiVincenzo. I think a special thing about this program is you are connecting with these experts in all of these fields. In the lessons, of course, you're learning about their work and relevant topics across like the climate sector, but you also get to experience them as humans, and you get to hang out with them. And Josh also plays a lot of sports, so you might play a pickup game of soccer with him. He
Oh
also
yeah.
found out on this program that he plays the guitar. I had no idea. So it's fun to be able to connect with people in that way as well.
Absolutely. And we all have the same shared like goals. So it's such a good connector to also just meet people from all across the country and even all across the world that you share so much with.
I completely agree. Well, thank you, Anna. I will bring you back to share about your climate action program towards the end of the program or this info session. But thank you for sharing about your experiences from 2024.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to hand it off to Emma, who's going to go over the program themes.
Thanks, Laurel. And just want to echo thanks to Anna. That was such an inspiring such inspiring stories that you shared, and also wonderful to hear your insights as an alumna of the program. So in all of the Columbia Climate School pre-college programs, we place a strong emphasis on academics. And so each summer in the Green Mountain program, the content can vary a little bit based on feedback from past cohorts. So this summer's themes or content areas are listed below, and Anna did a wonderful job kind of highlighting some of those that stuck out to her. So to start, we have the science of climate change. This is really looking at larger processes like the greenhouse gas effect, an intro to the physics of Earth's temperature, natural variability versus anthropogenic change, and some climate projections and modeling. Then we'll move to climate impact. So these are like large global processes such as sea level rise, glacial melt, global temperature increase, etc. And we'll look at how the impacts can vary geographically. The next theme is climate preparedness and resilience. So this is looking at different climate risks and what recovery and planning might look like. International climate policies and negotiations. This is kind of what Anna touched on and more of that law area, if that's something that interests you. So we'll talk about sustainable development goals, the Paris Agreement, UN climate change negotiations, global governance, international law, etc. Decarbonization pathways in the energy transition. This looks at how we can monitor and measure progress in a transition from a fossil fuel-based economy to a renewable one. The theme of climate justice really weaves its way through all of these, but this is specifically looking at the impacts of climate change and how they disproportionately impact different communities of people. Sustainability in the circular economy. we've heard a little bit about, and I'll wait to let Sandra talk more about that after this. Then climate change communication and conversation. This is thinking about how we can effectively convey climate information to a wide variety of audiences and techniques to foster open dialogue around climate issues. Applied solutions in action. This is when we go out into the world, we leave the campus, and we learn from sustainability practitioners about how they implement sustainable practices into their daily work. And then finally, climate solutions and collective action. This is when that climate action plan comes into play, which Anna will share more about later. But this is really thinking about how youth and how people can really take action in their own community around climate change and climate solutions. And then finally, we also include field-based sampling and analysis, which we'll talk a little bit about further on in this info session. So we can head to the next slide. Thanks, Laurel. So within the Green Mountains program, we have 7 Columbia Climate School experts that lead different lessons throughout the 2 weeks and different activities throughout the program. And as mentioned, the experts here are leaders in a variety of sectors. We have climate scientists, social science experts, people in the field of sustainability, finance, policy, and more. And many of our experts teach graduate and undergraduate level courses at Columbia. And of course, all of them are committed to really equipping students with the tools they need to take local action. So really excited today to have Sandra Goldmark with us to give a sense of what her lessons on sustainability and the circular economy may look like during the program. So welcome, Sandra. Thanks for joining us. And I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, thank you, Emma. And thanks, Anna. Nice to see you. And I'm glad you liked working on circularity. My favorite picture from Anna's slide was the berries. We go berry picking, or at least we have the years that I've gone, and I love it. They're delicious. So let's go to the next slide. We do, I think this is my only slide here, but basically we spend time with the students thinking through and then applying the basic concepts of circularity. So familiarizing them with this very powerful tool, which is in some ways very familiar to all of us: recycling, reuse. We've all heard these terms, but when you really dig into circularity, it's bigger and more powerful, and I think underutilized, at least in the United States, and really globally, as a very powerful tool in our climate toolkit. For those who aren't circular economy experts, I see we have one who's got a great question in the chat about circularity. Circularity is really about rethinking the production, consumption, disposal of material goods. And so it's a big tool for mitigation. It can also be a tool for job creation. It's a tool for really rethinking business growth and coming up with actually sustainable growth models for our economy. So it's a very, very powerful tool. With the students, we dig into understanding the basic concepts. We look at a series of case studies of different businesses or community practices or policies in the world of circular economy. So design practices, manufacturing practices, reuse, repair, refurbishment, traditional recycling, the whole cycle of circularity. And then, and we look at it as try to understand it as a holistic approach that has climate impacts, business impacts, and social impacts. Then we give students an opportunity to, we call it Make It Circular. They pick up a service, a product, a practice, and that is linear in the world that they see, and they try to make a case for making it circular. And how would they do it? We use a pitch format so that they gain also some fun and some experience with a pitch structure, with working in a group to develop a pitch, and with live verbal presentation. And that's basically the structure of the circularity thread. And I just want to, I don't know if everyone can see the question, but there's a great question in the chat. What are some factors that lead to the success of circular economy? What are some ways to motivate high school students to develop this thinking besides the PA handing down uniforms, etc.? So the first part of the question is a really smart one, because circularity is really in its infancy. We're less than 7% circular, or less than 8% circular globally. And it gets even worse when you look at different sectors. And so why aren't we there? Why are we so predominantly linear, and how can we scale circularity? So we don't get into depth at that, but we do talk to some extent about the policy environment and, as an enabling factor, some of the design decisions and default design practices that we're talking about. We talk about some of the technology and supply chain challenges around circularity. For example, in the textile space, there are some technologies that we're missing in order to really scale certain practices, or that aren't quite at scale yet. And the second part of the question, how do we help high schoolers develop this thinking? I would say, instead of besides the PA handing down uniforms, I would say to build on the PA handing down uniforms. I actually think that one of the beautiful things about circularity is that it is scalable and works at any scale. So community practices like sharing uniforms is, in fact, a form of circularity. And the questioner is right. How do we make that the default? How do we scale that so it's not just an add-on? How might a high schooler who's running that used uniform sale help their school embed a procurement policy that might support that practice and actually make circularity the first action for a high schooler getting a uniform instead of a secondary or tertiary? So anyway, I love the Green Mountains program. I love meeting the students and going berry picking and talking about circularity and helping them with their pitching and their verbal presentation. And I'm so glad to have the opportunity to come back this summer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandra, for sharing that little snapshot and a little bit of a preview of what's to come in the Green Mountains program. So building off of that little mini lesson from Sandra, within the Green Mountains program, we leverage a wide variety of learning modalities and immersive experiences to encourage student participation throughout the program. So you can see some of these different learning modalities here on this slide. We host a speaker series throughout the program. We really utilize team building and project-based learning opportunities, as well as small group learning environments where students can engage in debates and simulations with a smaller group of students. As mentioned earlier from a couple different experts here, excursions are a popular part of the program where students go off campus and get to really meet and interact with practitioners applying climate solutions in their careers. We also have hands-on fieldwork focused on data collection and analysis, and this really allows students to gain technical and research-based skills through field data collection and analysis. So students don't engage in their own formal research project due to time constraints within the program, but these research-based activities really provide a unique sampling of kind of what it's like to be, whether it's a biologist or a climatologist or an earth scientist. Students really get kind of a snapshot of what that real hands-on field work might look like. And then finally, students create their own climate action project. We'll hear more about Anna's later on. And this is where students have time to dive into their own community and develop a solution or a plan to address a challenge that their own community is facing and that's meaningful to them. And then students share that final project in a presentation at the end of the summer for the rest of the cohort and Columbia Climate School experts. So it's a great wrap up to the whole program.
Thanks, Emma. We also, talking about some of these field experiences and data collection activities, we wanted to highlight some of the place-based and field-based learning that happens on the program. So first, the students are going to explore the ecosystems right on campus. As Anna was mentioning, we have access to this amazing woodland area right behind campus, right behind the fields. And so there's a small stream right near campus that we are able to assess for water quality. And the way that we do that for this particular field activity is through macroinvertebrates, which are tiny water bugs. They start their life in water before they metamorphose into either land bugs or flying bugs. Like some of you may be familiar with the dragonfly, but you may not know that dragonflies actually start their life as little water bugs. And these tiny macroinvertebrates have different sensitivities to water quality. Some are hardy and can tolerate a little more pollution and low oxygen, while others are very sensitive. So by doing a biological survey, we can see, using these macroinvertebrates as a proxy, what the water quality is like. If we have a lot of diversity with really sensitive species, then we can infer that this a stream has positive water quality versus if we only get a few species of like hardy worms and beetles, then we might not think that there might be an issue with water quality that's underlying. And this is a protocol that's used throughout the country. So it's a standardized methodology with very like no chemicals and very low use of equipment. So it's a great first field activity. We then look at tree rings. So some of you may know that tree rings can offer a window into past climate. They are a climate proxy. Each year, a tree grows one ring, and the width of that tree ring reflects the year's temperature and precipitation. So a very wide, healthy ring is telling you that it has optimal conditions for growth, whereas a very thin ring might tell you that it was under some climate stress. So scientists, they analyze these tree ring widths as a proxy for past temperature and precipitation, and then they're able to compare the tree ring data with local weather records. So we do the same thing. We use the same protocol that scientists at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory of Columbia University. There is a tree ring lab that specializes in this field of dendrochronology, and we use the same tools, the same methodology to analyze the trees in this nearby area of campus. Don't worry, we take these tiny little tree ring cores, but it doesn't harm the tree at all. We also engage in a climate negotiation, which is a role-playing scenario premised on an international climate summit, such as the Conference of the Parties that happens each year. Students, they role-play as either delegates representing a specific nation or a negotiating bloc, or in some cases, interest groups, like sometimes we have interest groups of fossil fuel lobbyists or activists that are joining. But the goal is for everyone to work together, to debate, and to negotiate to keep our temperature from rising well below 2 degrees C from pre-industrial levels, with the real goal of staying below 1.5 degrees C. It's a great opportunity for students to really understand some of the challenges that are experienced at some of these international negotiations, but as well as developing collaborative solutions to get to the common goal, so we can globally ensure that we're staying below that temperature threshold. So here I wanted to share a little clip from the climate negotiations themselves, and you'll get a sense of what it's like on the ground during this day. So you can see it's very loud. It gets a little heated, but it's all great learning experience. And then we have some experts of the program that have been to many COPs, Conference of the Parties, in the past that kind of put some perspective on how the negotiations are going with the students in comparison to the real life negotiations that happen on the ground. We take in this program 3 excursions to explore climate and sustainability through the context of place in the Green Mountains of Vermont. And this is an opportunity that leverages the local community and the environment as a foundation for our curriculum. Our first excursion that we take we call it the Ecosystem Extravaganza. So students visit Lake Bomoseen to assess the health of this ecosystem and to explore system science through the context of this lake. So they are going to be collecting data across these parameters. They're going to first do a weather and site sketch to get a layout of the surrounding area, because geographic regions and the placement of different features of the landscape can really impact the quality of a water body. And so this is called metadata. It puts context for the other parameters of the day. So we start with this. Then students will be doing a water chemistry test, which does include the use of field chemical kits that are used by scientists when they go out into the field, just to measure some water quality parameters. We look at temperature, dissolved oxygen, pH, to get a baseline assessment of what the quality is like of this lake. We then do a biodiversity survey. So we're catching fish and different invertebrates to see what is living in this area. Are we catching sensitive species? Are we catching a diversity? How does that interact with the water chemistry of this water body? And then the last one that we do is the muck station. So we collect a sediment core to look at what the benthic habitat is like, which can influence the biodiversity. The turbidity is how cloudy the water is, which can also influence the water chemistry. So you can very quickly see how each one of these parameters is all interconnected, and we explore that system on this excursion. We also, our next excursion is visiting Montpelier State House. So while we're out visiting the State House, we learn about local and state climate action, which is inspirational for students when they're thinking about the power of community level change. We engage in small groups, having conversations with local government officials and climate leaders in Vermont. In the past, we've had conversations with state representatives and climate action coordinators. And so students get to hear directly from people that are working on policy on the ground about what's happening locally in Vermont, and they can make connections to things that are happening in Vermont to their own hometown. We then have the opportunity to explore Montpelier, which is a lovely town. The students eat lunch locally and have been able to explore some of the local shops. Some of their favorites was going to a local bookstore as well as a thrift store. And I'm going to hand it over to Sylvie to share about our third excursion to Burlington.
Thanks, Laurel. So another way that we encourage students to engage directly with climate practitioners who are working towards solutions here in the state of Vermont is our excursion to Burlington. So we call this day the Tracks Day because students have the opportunity to choose between 4 different tracks or focus areas, whichever focus is the most interesting to them. So the different areas that we have on this day are biodiversity and conservation, sustainable planning in the built environment, food systems and sustainable agriculture, and climate finance and entrepreneurship. So the group splits into these 4 tracks in the morning, and each track goes to visit one or multiple organizations that are working directly in climate solutions in that specific field. At the end of the day, we all reconvene for a big, beautiful picnic dinner at the Bread and Butter Farm, which is up in northern Vermont. It's really beautiful. So it's a really, really fun, really incredible day. We have a number of wonderful partners on this day who I'll briefly go through per track. So our biodiversity and conservation partners are typically ecologists and climate scientists who have been in the past associated with the University of Vermont at the Rubenstein School. This was a wonderful opportunity that we had with Dr. Alan Strong on the Bobolink project, which is a project that works to collaborate with local farmers in preserving bobolink nesting sites that happen to overlap with the haying season in Vermont's agricultural season. And so working directly with them to make sure that the bobolinks have a chance to lay eggs in their nest and incubate them. So the next track is our sustainable planning and the built environment track. This one was really exciting. We actually got to meet with the mayor of Burlington. She was able to join us for the morning, and students got to have an open discussion with her about Burlington's net zero energy roadmap, which is a very ambitious plan for the city of Burlington and the Burlington Electric Department to reach a net zero energy output for the city of Burlington by 2030. And so students got to engage directly with the mayor to discuss what steps are in place right now to achieve that goal in the foreseeable future. Our next track was our food systems and sustainable agriculture track. We spent the entire day at the Shelburne Farms, which is an incredible agricultural and education institution in the state of Vermont, we're really lucky to have. So students spent the morning in the greenhouses and in the gleaning fields learning about that program, and the afternoon learning about their dairy industry and looking at what the role of the dairy industry is in both climate challenges and solutions, especially in a rural and agricultural state. The final track was our climate finance and entrepreneurship track. This was a fun day. We spent the morning with a finance expert teaching us about where funding for different types of climate solutions come from and how we need to look at different approaches for different types of solutions that we may be interested in. The end of the day, we visited a local startup that is just 5 years old called Wasted, and they're actually in the business of capturing and recycling human liquid urine waste to turn into fertilizer and to use as a productive product in our economy and not let it go to waste. And so we got to tour their facility and learn about their startup journey, how they funded this idea, and the steps they took to become an operating business in the climate space. So it's a really wonderful day. Hopefully we have something for every student interest and you really get to dive into something at a deeper level and work directly with practitioners in the field on this day. In addition to all of the excursions that we've mentioned, the setting for this program is the beautiful Green Mountains here in Vermont. I'm biased, I'm from Vermont, but it really is just a stunning place to be, especially in the summer. And we try to take as much advantage of that throughout the program as we can. We go on hikes right from campus, as Anna was saying. We are right next to Lake Bomazene, which is really a wonderful, wonderful resource for campfires, for our ecosystem extravaganza. We also, as Sandra was saying, we go berry picking. We try to engage with as many of the beautiful natural resources we have around us throughout the program. Thanks.
Thanks, Sylvie. I agree. I think Vermont in the summer, there's no better place to be. I want to invite Anna back to share a little bit more about her process and thinking through a climate action plan. As a reminder, this is the final deliverable of the program, which allows students to apply their new knowledge and skills into a project that can bring real change back to their community. So Anna, I'll hand it off to you to share about your project.
Yes, so my project, my climate action plan, which is the over the 2 weeks of the program, after seminars and after all these different excursions, we take on all our knowledge and then we look at local issues in our community and then we come up with a climate action plan to help fix them. And these are actually the slides from my pitch on the last day of the program. So my climate action plan is called Save Money, Reduce Emissions, and it's a website focused on community, sustainability, and economics. So starting with the problem, if you want to go to the next slide, it can be summarized in 2 words, climate change. As we learned in one of the seminars led by the Columbia lead researcher Martin D. Brock, the number one way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reach our UN goals is to increase our energy efficiency and renewable energy within the country. Now, in 2022, our government passed a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a policy of progressive climate action because it offered multiple tax benefits and monetary incentives for people to go green. So you might be asking, well, sorry, that was my brother. I don't know. Hold on. So you might be asking, hey, Anna, so the government has already worked on this and it looks like the problem's solved. So what's the issue? Now, let's say if you want to move on to the next slide, I am a very well-informed citizen who has a lot of free time to look at local policy, and I'm actively aware that there are incentives. I'm at my town's website on the next slide, and I go on Google and I search it up. And it's very confusing because there's a lot of different pages, there's a lot going on. But I'm able to find sustainability, so it looks promising, so I click it. And then there's a lot of different projects going on. I see that there's a project called Solarize Vienna. That's something similar to what I'm looking at. So I click on it and then I see that it looks like the date to sign up has already passed. So even though there was this program that I didn't even know existed, it's already passed and I can't even use it. But I'm very determined. So I go to another site and once again, among all the small words, I click resources and then on the next slide, it says that there's another incentive that I can look at. So I just click that again, still trying to find a way that I can just be more green. And it's broad language, it's complicated, it's a bunch of law language and jargon that I'm not familiar with. So on to the next slide. While there are many different benefits and rebates, it's confusing and complex websites like the one I just showed you that are one of the major barriers for why people don't actually utilize these as incentives. So my solution for my community is to create a clear, concise website that is straight to the point on what are the different rebates, tax credits, deductions, exemptions available, and how people in my community can use them and access them to make the process as convenient as possible. Now, since 2024, much has changed policy-wise, but Save Money, Reduce Emissions is a live website, and it's a resource meant to catalyze and make the process of using these incentives, applying for them, and learning about them as possible and at the reach of the people in my community. I can even put the website link in the chat below.
Thanks so much, Anna. And I know since the program in 2024, you have taken this project and just like taken it to the moon. Like the website is live. You have shared it at different conferences. You have some new projects in mind. Do you want to share a little bit more about where you've taken your project since then?
I'd love to. So I'm constantly, like everyone, I'm constantly learning and improving. But after creating my website, I had the privilege of presenting it in a nationwide forum hosted by Laurel and the Columbia Climate School's K-12 program. And then I also showed the website to practically everyone I knew and asked them to share it with their family and their neighbors. And since then, we've had more than 100 plus users, which is really exciting. And Save Money, Reduce Emissions was also invited to different local green expos. So the picture you're looking at right now was a stand from the one in the Vienna Green Expo, where I got to be like right there at the front talking to members in my community about their questions and their concerns. We even had a little spin the wheel game for like their kids who were also there to get them more excited into the field of sustainability. And it was just incredible. And then on top of that, there's so many other experiences and projects for the future that I'm working on. I'm working on creating a podcast, and I'm also working on revamping the entire site to make it more user involved. So not only is it a place to get information, but it's also my goal now is to make it a place for community discussion and discourse and opportunities to be shared. So even though there's a lot of policy changes going on right now, I want this website to continue to live beyond and continue to expand the scope.
That is incredible, Anna. You are truly such an inspiration. I think you are embodying and representing everything, all of our goals and hopes for a student to take away from the Green Mountains program, and you're doing this. So thank you for sharing. And if anyone has questions for Anna, feel free to put them in the Q&A, or you'll have a chance to ask her at the end. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to hand it over to Sylvie to share about the application next steps.
Thanks, Laurel, and thank you, Anna. That is always the highlight to hear you talk about the work that you're doing. We're so proud and excited, and so excited to help students do similar work. I will be quick with this. Just want to make sure you know how to find us and what the next steps might be if you're interested in joining the program. So the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains program is eligible for students completing 9th through 12th grade, as well as motivated rising 9th graders to apply. We have a selective admissions process that is actually reviewed on a rolling basis. So we do not have a deadline until the start of the program. We encourage you to apply early, though, to make sure that you have space. The online application process begins with a general overview of demographic information, so a little bit about you, your school, your grade, things like that. You will then be prompted to submit a $700 deposit to hold space on the program. That's comprised of a $200 application fee and a $500 deposit towards tuition. Then you will have a little bit more time to complete an applicant interest statement. So this is where we hope to hear from you about why you're excited to join the program and how you're excited to contribute to this community. And then we also ask for 2 teacher references as part of the application. After that, you'll be asked to sign an agreement form, and we always encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions about the application process or content. So in addition to our standard application, we're really excited to be offering full and partial scholarships. They are available to students who meet the general eligibility requirements, which I just mentioned. These scholarships are available only for students who reside currently in the United States. The application process is quite similar, although I do want to point out that scholarship applicants do not need to complete a standard application as well. Your scholarship application is sufficient. You will be asked to complete 2 written or video submissions to prompts on the application and 2 teacher references as well, in addition to some household income information. The deadline for these scholarship applications, we do have a deadline for the scholarship, is March 15th, 2026. So thank you again, and we really encourage you, once again, please reach out to us if you do have any questions. I'll turn it back over to Laurel for general questions about the whole info session.
Thanks so much, Sylvie. And you'll notice I put some links in the chat for you all to access if that's easier than some of these QR codes. Of course, we have more information on our website if you want to read about some of the blogs from the program, or we have a mini documentary from a couple of years ago that you can watch. If you have any questions, we're always accessible via email. You can call Putney Student Travel directly if you have any questions about the logistics, the accommodations, any travel questions. If you have any content-related questions, feel free to set up a one-on-one appointment with our team at Columbia, and we'd be happy to talk to you about the curriculum, our pedagogy, the experts, anything content-related. But given that we are here live, we're also happy to answer any questions that you may have now. But I also just want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was so wonderful to have this hour with you to share about a program that is so near and dear to our hearts.